Every day you wait for permission. Weaker men with more proof move past you. Not better men, not wiser men, not men with deeper pain, men with proof. Because the world does not reward the man who secretly deserves to be seen. It rewards the man who has made himself impossible to dismiss. And this is the invisible chain most men never notice. They are not waiting for money. They are not waiting for confidence. They are not waiting for perfect timing. They are waiting for someone to look at them and say, "You are allowed now." Allowed to build, allowed to become rich, allowed to leave the old identity behind, allowed to stop being small. But permission rarely sounds like permission. It sounds like planning, explaining, preparing, waiting for family support, waiting for a mentor, waiting for a connection, waiting to feel ready. And while you wait to be understood, another man publishes the work. Another man learns the skill. Another man takes the rejection. Another man creates evidence. That is the mechanism beneath this video. Permission is psychological slavery, and proof is the escape. Most men do not see this because they imagine permission as something obvious. A father saying yes, a boss opening a door, a mentor giving approval, a friend saying he believes in them. But the deepest form of permission is not spoken. It hides inside delay. It is the way you keep explaining your ambition to people who only understand your past. It is the way you keep defending your future to people who benefit from your doubt. It is the way you keep waiting for the right emotional weather before you move. You tell yourself you are being strategic. But often, you are not being strategic. You are trying to feel approved before you act. That is not discipline. That is dependence wearing intelligent clothing. Machiavelli matters here for one reason. He studied men as they behave, not as they pretend to behave. He understood that people are moved by appearance, fear, interest, reputation, loyalty, status, and consequence. He did not decorate reality to make weak men feel safe. He looked at the world and saw mechanisms. And one of the coldest mechanisms is this. If you have no proof, your potential is politically worthless. Your pain may be real. Your intelligence may be real. Your ambition may be real. Your resentment may be justified. But if none of it has been converted into visible evidence, the world treats it as noise. This is where unsupported men lose years. A man waits 1 year because his family does not believe in his ambition. Another year because his friends laugh at the idea. Another year because he does not know the right people. Another year because he says he needs more confidence. Then, after enough delay, he no longer says, "I am waiting." He says, "Maybe this is not for me." That is how permission destroys ambition. Not through one dramatic failure, not through one enemy standing in front of you, not through one betrayal you can point to. It destroys ambition by turning delay into personality. A man who waits long enough starts to believe waiting is who he is. He becomes cautious, he becomes over-reasonable, he becomes addicted to explaining why now is not the right time. He calls fear maturity. He calls hesitation wisdom. He calls self-abandonment patience. And the world does not stop for him. Another man moves while afraid. Another man builds without applause. Another man produces while misunderstood. Another man creates a result, ugly enough to be real, then improves it until it becomes undeniable. The difference is not emotion. The difference is evidence. The permission-seeking man says, "Believe in me so I can begin." The strategic man says, "I will begin until belief becomes irrelevant." That is the first shift. You are not an outsider waiting for entry. You are a builder creating leverage. The outsider asks, "Who will let me in?" The builder asks, "What can I build that make?" And this is where proof becomes the first real escape. Proof is merciless. That is why most men avoid it. As long as you are planning, you can still imagine yourself as gifted. As long as you are preparing, you can still pretend the problem is timing. As long as you are waiting, you can still blame your environment. But the moment you produce proof, reality answers. And many men fear that answer more than they fear failure. Because proof removes fantasy. Proof tells you if your skill is real. Proof tells you if your offer matters. Proof tells you if your discipline exists outside your imagination. Proof tells you if you are building power or only performing ambition inside your head. Without proof, you are always asking for belief. And belief is unstable. People believe when it costs them nothing. They support when support is convenient. They praise when praise does not threaten them. They disappear when your ambition starts making them uncomfortable. Machiavelli warned against trusting human consistency blindly. In The Prince, he writes that men are often ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, covetous. Do not misunderstand this. This is not a command to hate people. It is a command to stop building your future on their emotional reliability. Build it on evidence. Look at SpaceX. Before SpaceX became a symbol of technological dominance, it was almost another failed ambition. Falcon 1 failed 3 times. 3 public failures. 3 moments where critics, investors, engineers, competitors, and spectators could laugh and say, "This is not real." And SpaceX did not answer humiliation with speeches. It answered with another launch. On September 28, 2008, Falcon 1 reached orbit on its 4th attempt, becoming the first privately developed, fully liquid-fueled launch vehicle to reach Earth orbit. That result changed the conversation, not because doubt disappeared. Doubt never disappears. But the price of dismissing them changed. This is the law most unsupported men need to understand. The crowd mocks process and worships results. No one respects the struggle while it is happening. They respect the result after it can no longer be denied. The permission-seeking man wants encouragement before the 4th launch. The strategic man launches anyway. That is proof after failure. You survive being doubted. You survive embarrassment. You survive the absence of applause. You refine the machine instead of negotiating with shame. Then one result makes 1,000 opinions irrelevant. Old identity says, "I failed, so maybe they were right." New identity says, "I failed, so now I have data." That is the difference between a man who wants permission and a man who builds power. But there is another kind of proof. It does not come from surviving public failure. It comes from building quietly beneath attention until the world discovers it already depends on what you built. That is NVIDIA. The richest man in the room is not always the loudest. Sometimes he is the one building the infrastructure everyone else will later need. Most men chase attention. Strategic men study dependence. They do not ask, "Who approves of me now?" They ask, "What will the world need later?" Jensen Huang founded NVIDIA in 1993 and has served as its president, chief executive officer, and board member since the company began. For years, much of the world understood NVIDIA through graphics, gaming, chips, and technical infrastructure. Not glamour. Infrastructure. The crowd saw graphics. Huang saw future dependence. Graphics processing units. Accelerated computing. Parallel processing. Developer ecosystems. Foundations that most people ignored because they did not look emotionally exciting. Then artificial intelligence became one of the central forces of the modern economy, and NVIDIA's position changed the structure of the game. Attention did not create NVIDIA's power. Attention revealed it. That is the lesson. Do not chase applause. Build where applause will eventually have to kneel. The weak man asks, "Do they believe in me yet?" The strategic man asks, "What will they eventually need?" Then he builds there quietly, long before the room understands why it matters. SpaceX shows proof after failure. NVIDIA shows proof before recognition. One builds through public humiliation. The other builds beneath public attention. But both obey the same law. Permission is irrelevant when proof becomes undeniable. The world does not have to believe you early, it only has to face the evidence later. This is the real meaning of building without permission. You do not wait for the gatekeeper to approve your value. You build until the gatekeeper has to recalculate the cost of ignoring you. If you are the kind of man who is tired of pretending that consuming more content is the same as building power, stop hiding behind false progress. You already know the truth. You do not need more motivation. Your real problem is that your ambition has not been converted into a system of proof. If you keep watching, agreeing, and doing nothing, you will become the most tragic kind of man. A man who understood the mechanism and still stayed weak. Inside Patreon, you get exclusive, unfiltered breakdowns on power, discipline, reputation, and psychological strategy, so you can stop consuming ideas and start operating from them. This is not for men looking for comfort. It is for men who want structure, pressure, and clarity. The decision is yours. But proof has one problem. If no one can see it, it does not create leverage. This is where sincere men often become invisible. They believe that if their substance is real, the world will eventually discover it. They believe hard work automatically becomes reputation. They believe being good should be enough. It is not. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few really know what you are." That sentence destroys a soft illusion. People tell you to just be yourself. Machiavelli tells you most people will never know yourself. They will know your signals, your proof, your reputation, your composure, your results, your visible discipline, your ability to control the narrative around your value. This does not mean become fake. It means stop assuming truth will automatically be discovered. Truth without presentation is buried treasure, and buried treasure creates no leverage until someone can locate it. For the unsupported man, appearance must become evidence, not vanity. Evidence. Your body can become evidence of self-command. Your work can become evidence of competence. Your portfolio can become evidence of skill. Your communication can become evidence of clarity. Your silence can become evidence of control. Your consistency can become evidence of seriousness. This is why you publish controlled proof, not emotional confession proof. A project, a case study, a video, a written breakdown, a before and after result, a public record of skill, a measurable transformation, a service delivered, a problem solved. The man with no network must make proof become the network. Stop saying, "No one sees my value." Ask, where is the evidence they can see? That question hurts because it kills the comfort of being secretly exceptional. But it gives you power. Old identity says, "I am misunderstood." New identity says, "I am underdocumented." Being misunderstood keeps you emotional. Being underdocumented gives you a task, and once you start building proof, another trap appears. You will want to announce too early. You will want applause before the result is strong. You will want to tell weak environments what you are becoming before you have built enough evidence to protect the vision. That is where many men lose the work before it matures, because unfinished ambition is fragile, not because the ambition is weak, but because the man carrying it still wants approval. Do not show the seed to people who only respect fruit. Early ambition does not need spectators, it needs protection. Most men announce their goals because talking gives the illusion of movement. It lets them feel seen before they have earned the right to be believed. but attention that comforts you early can poison the work before it becomes strong. When you announce too soon, you invite interference, doubt, mockery, advice from the unqualified, jealousy disguised as concern, questions that drain focus, opinions that force you to defend a plan instead of building it. The unsupported man cannot afford this. He does not have enough energy to fight reality and explain himself at the same time. Silence is not weakness. Silence is protection. It protects unfinished power from premature judgment. The permission-seeking man speaks to get confidence. The strategic man builds until speech becomes unnecessary. This is not about hiding forever. It is about sequence. Do not reveal the plan when the plan still depends on emotional approval. Reveal proof when proof can stand without your explanation. Do not narrate every ambition. Do not confess every fear. Do not expose every early move. Do not seek applause for preparation. Do not ask weak environments to bless strong futures. Build quietly, then present evidence. Old identity says, if they understand me, I can move. New identity says, if I move long enough, understanding becomes irrelevant. Silence turns you from a man seeking witnesses into a man producing consequences. But silence without discipline becomes hiding. And that is the next test. What are you actually building while no one is watching? Anger feels powerful. Discipline is powerful. Most unsupported men confuse the two because anger gives them energy, but discipline gives them results. A man gets doubted by his family, laughed at by friends, ignored by the market, rejected by rooms he wanted to enter, and for a moment he feels dangerous. He feels betrayed. He feels sharp. He feels like the pain has turned him into something harder. But then the week passes. Nothing is built. Then another week passes. Still nothing is built. Then months pass, and the anger becomes a personality. He talks about what they did to him. He tells the story of being underestimated. He remembers the disrespect with perfect detail, but his proof remains thin. That is the tragedy. Pain gives him a reason, but not a system, and without a system, pain becomes entertainment for the ego. The world does not reward emotional storms. It rewards repeated output. It does not pay you because you were abandoned. It does not promote you because people doubted you. It does not respect you because you suffered in silence. The world asks a colder question. What did you build from it? Machiavelli's military thinking constantly returns to preparation, order, discipline, and readiness. In The Art of War, he warns that dangerous action should not be taken unless men are prepared, ordered, and mentally ready. Never conduct thy men to fate the field, if first them hast not confirmed their minds, and knowest them to be without fear, and to be in good order. This is old language, but the mechanism is modern. Order before pressure. Most men reverse this. They chase pressure first. They want intensity. They want rage. They want a dramatic emotional state that makes them feel reborn. But without order, pressure breaks them. With order, pressure sharpens them. That is why the unsupported man must turn pain into schedule. Not speeches. Schedule. Wake time, training time, skill time, publishing time, review time, sales time, learning time, recovery time. This is how isolation becomes leverage. Isolation without structure becomes decay. Isolation with discipline becomes a private empire. A man alone with no order becomes consumed by his own thoughts. He scrolls. He imagines. He compares. He resents. He starts fighting invisible enemies in his mind while his real life remains unchanged. But a man alone with order becomes dangerous. Not violent, not loud. Dangerous because his energy has direction. His disappointment has been converted into repetition. His loneliness has been converted into hours. His rejection has been converted into skill. The question is not, who doubted you? The question is, where is your order? Because a man without order cannot command himself. And a man who cannot command himself will eventually be commanded by someone else. Old identity says, they doubted me, so I am angry. New identity says, they doubted me, so I became organized. That is the difference between resentment and power. Resentment wants witnesses. Power wants systems. But even discipline does not mean life will become fair. This is where naive men collapse. They believe if they work hard, the world must reward them quickly. Then reality delays the reward, and they become bitter. They feel betrayed by effort itself. But Machiavelli would reject both illusions. The first illusion says fortune controls everything, so effort is pointless. The second illusion says effort controls everything, so life should obey you. Both are childish. The world is partly outside your control, and that is exactly why you must control your part with severity. Machiavelli had a name for the battlefield of luck, timing, randomness, chaos, and sudden opportunity. Fortuna. And against Fortuna, he placed another force, virtue. In The Prince, Machiavelli writes, "Fortune is the arbiter of one half of our actions, but she still leaves us to direct the other half." That is not soft optimism. That is strategic realism. You cannot control whether your family supports you. You cannot control whether friends understand you. You cannot control whether the market rewards you immediately. You cannot control timing, trends, sudden changes, or the rooms that close before you arrive. But you can control preparation, skill, proof, positioning, reputation, adaptation, discipline. That is virtue. Not virtue in the soft moral sense. Virtue means force of capability, decisiveness, adaptability, boldness, competence under pressure. The man with virtue does not ask fortune to be kind. He builds so that when fortune opens a crack, he is ready to enter. Waiting for perfect timing is another permission trap. Perfect timing is often recognized only after a man has already moved. The man who waits for certainty arrives late. The man who builds through uncertainty accumulates advantage. When opportunity appears, people call him lucky. They did not see the years when he trained while no one cared. They did not see the private order. They did not see the rejected attempts. They did not see the silent proof. They did not see the discipline that made the opportunity usable. So the rule is simple. Do not wait for fortune. Prepare for collision with it. Build skills before the chance comes. Build proof before the audience arrives. Build reputation before the room opens. Build discipline before pressure demands it. Fortune rewards the prepared more often than the hopeful. Old identity says, I need the right opportunity. New identity says, I become the kind of man who is ready when opportunity appears. That is the difference between waiting and positioning. But once proof begins to work, another battlefield appears: reputation. Because in human society, reputation often arrives before reality. Before people know your character, they know your signals. Before they test your skill, they see your pattern. Before they hear your truth, they hear the story surrounding you. And that story matters. Some men get trusted faster because reputation reduces uncertainty. People do not want to risk trusting the invisible man. They trust what already appears validated. If you do not build reputation, you remain dependent on introductions. If you do not control your narrative, someone else will. If your work is invisible, it can be ignored, stolen, dismissed, or forgotten. This is where hard-working men lose. They assume effort creates reputation automatically. It does not. Effort must be framed. Results must be documented. Wins must be made visible, not loudly. Strategically, Machiavelli writes in The Prince, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand." This is not a moral ideal. It is a diagnosis. People often judge what they can see before they understand what is real. So if your value has no visible form, do not be shocked when it is ignored. A man becomes known for what he consistently demonstrates. If you want to be seen as disciplined, show discipline long enough that people stop questioning it. If you want to be seen as valuable, solve valuable problems repeatedly. If you want to be seen as serious, stop behaving casually with your own future. If you want to be seen as powerful, stop chasing approval from people who have none to give. Your reputation is not what you claim. It is what your pattern forces people to expect. Old identity says, "I hope they see who I am." New identity says, "I build a reputation they cannot easily misread." This is not performance. It is strategic consistency. But reputation creates attention, and attention brings one of the oldest traps, the desire to be loved. The man who needs to be loved is easy to control, not because love is weak, but because need is weakness. Once people know you need praise, they know how to steer you. Give him attention, he moves closer. Withdraw attention, he panics. Criticize him, he explains. Doubt him, he delays. Reject him, he changes direction. That is not freedom. That is remote control. If you need approval, your standards become negotiable. You tolerate disrespect to keep peace. You explain ambition to keep connection. You stay available to people who drain you. You choose being liked over being respected. And over time, people learn that your future can be interrupted by their opinion. In The Prince, Machiavelli asks whether it is better to be loved or feared. His answer is famous. It is much safer to be feared than loved, when, of the two, either must be dispensed with. This quote is often abused. It does not mean terrorize people. It does not mean be cruel. It does not mean dominate innocent people. Machiavelli is speaking about political stability. But the deeper mechanism is this. Love, when based only on emotion, is unstable. Respect for consequence is more stable. Modern application. Do not build your life on being liked. Build it on standards that create respect. A man with no consequence attached to his boundaries is not kind. He is available for exploitation. The unsupported man must stop confusing approval with alliance. People can like you and still not respect you. People can praise you and still not support you. People can understand you and still not help you. People can love the version of you that stays beneath them. So do not ask, do they like me? Ask, do my standards make my value clear? This is not about being cold for aesthetics. It is about not letting emotional hunger govern strategic decisions. You can be decent, you can be fair, you can be calm, but you cannot be owned by the need to be approved. If you are a man building with no support, stop mistaking private agreement for real transformation. You already know approval is unstable, but your problem is that part of you still wants weak people to validate strong decisions. If you keep feeding that hunger, you will keep negotiating your standards with people who never paid the price of your future. Inside Patreon, you get deeper, unfiltered lessons on reputation, self-command, power psychology, and strategic discipline, so you can stop living as a man who reacts and start operating as a man who chooses. This is not for men who want easy comfort. It is for men who can handle pressure without begging to be praised for it. The decision is yours. If approval is unstable, what should a man pursue instead? Not affection, not attention, necessity. Being liked gets you smiles. Being necessary gets you leverage. Most men chase the first because they fear the responsibility of the second. To become necessary means you create value that others cannot easily replace. Not because you demand importance, because your absence creates a cost. This is the hidden architecture of wealth, influence, and status. If you are easy to replace, your effort becomes cheap. At work, in business, in creative life, in social hierarchy, replaceability lowers value. The man who works hard but creates no leverage is trapped. He may be respected emotionally, but economically and strategically he remains weak. Machiavelli's political world always returned to one question: who depends on whom? Who needs whose army? Whose resources? Whose loyalty? Whose legitimacy? Whose skill? Whose presence? Modern life has the same question: who needs your output? If the answer is no one yet, your mission is clear. Build useful power. There are levels. First, labor. You work. Second, skill. You produce better outcomes than average. Third, leverage. Your skill creates results that scale, persuade, attract, or solve expensive problems. Wealth is not the reward for suffering. Wealth is often the byproduct of leverage. The unsupported man must stop romanticizing struggle. Struggle is not automatically noble. Struggle becomes powerful only when converted into capability. So build capability. A measurable skill. A visible proof system. A reputation for results. A network created through value, not begging. A body of worth that speaks before you enter. That is how the outsider becomes necessary. Old identity says, I want them to support me. New identity says, I will become valuable enough that support becomes rational. This is colder. It is also more honest. The world may not open doors for unsupported men, so the unsupported man builds something that makes doors less relevant. The rich man without permission does not ask the world to be fair. He studies why it is not. Then he moves accordingly. This has never been about money alone. Money is downstream. This is about power over your attention, power over your need for approval, power over your reputation, power over your skill, power over your evidence, power over your response to fortune, power over your own movement. Because the man who cannot move without permission cannot build wealth without permission either. Most men fail not because they lack ability. They fail because they misunderstand reality. They think fairness will notice them. It will not. They think effort will automatically become status. It will not. They think pain will make them special. It will not. They think being understood is required before action. It is not. They think confidence comes before proof. It usually does not. They think support is the beginning. For some men, support becomes ownership. For the unsupported man, no support can become sovereignty. But only if he builds. Machiavelli is dangerous when misunderstood. A foolish man hears Machiavelli and thinks, I can manipulate people. A stronger man hears Machiavelli and thinks, I must stop being manipulated by illusions. That is the difference. Machiavelli is not a license for cruelty. He is a weapon against naivety. He teaches that men judge appearances, so build visible proof. He teaches that fortune controls part of life, so master the part left to you. He teaches that love is unstable when detached from consequence, so stop needing approval. He teaches that reputation shapes power, so stop leaving your narrative unguarded. He teaches that human passions remain constant, so stop expecting modern people to behave like moral theories. He teaches that order matters before pressure, so turn pain into structure. The full doctrine is this. Permission is psychological slavery. Proof is the escape. Silence protects proof while it is young. Discipline multiplies proof over time. Reputation makes proof visible. Leverage turns proof into power. And power makes the world adjust. Not motivation, mechanism. The unsupported man does not need the world to clap. He needs to stop bleeding energy into people who cannot crown him. Let them doubt. Let them misunderstand. Let them call it unrealistic. Let them laugh before the evidence arrives. Their doubt is not your prison unless you keep asking them for the key. You are not waiting to be chosen. You are being tested on whether you can move without being chosen. That is the hidden trial. The boy in you wants belief. The man in you builds evidence. The boy wants applause before the work. The man understands that applause is often interest arriving late. The boy explains. The man documents. The boy waits for confidence. The man creates proof. The boy wants permission. The man becomes leverage. This is how abandonment becomes power. Not because pain is beautiful. Pain is not beautiful. Pain is information. Pain removes the fantasy that someone else is coming to authorize your life. So do not ask to be chosen. Do not beg to be believed. Do not explain your ambition to people who need your doubt in order to feel safe. Build one measurable skill. Create proof every week. Publish controlled evidence. Protect unfinished power with silence. Let results speak before your mouth does. And when the world finally turns its head, do not mistake that for generosity. It is not generosity. It is adjustment. Because proof changes the price of ignoring you. Do not ask to be chosen. Become too costly to ignore. And if this is the kind of clarity you came here for, subscribe to Depths of Psyche. Not for comfort, for clarity. For Machiavellian realism, self-command, discipline, reputation, proof, and the kind of power that does not need applause before it moves. Study human nature. Study the mechanism. Build anyway.